Yeah, good evening. I will talk in English because for me it's easier to bullshit in English. So this talk is about money, and what I'm trying to do is open some perspectives or give an overview of what I think is funny parts of like when we talk about money, or especially what we don't talk about on money. So at the end of the talk, you hopefully have like a bunch of concepts you hopefully didn't heard before, and in the future when you think about money or somebody talks about money, maybe you see a pattern or remind some of the funny stuff or not funny stuff. I will go through it. So this will be quite a ride because there are a lot of slides, and I hope it makes sense for everybody, and we will go from now. So that's the rule number one, and the reason behind is like the creation of money is more complicated. There are different opinions. It's about power. Nobody wants to talk about power. It's about looting the system. Nobody wants to talk about that. And then we have money somewhere stored on islands. Nobody wants to talk about that either. So this talk is about what the two fishes don't know: what is water, what is money. Main point of the society doesn't know exactly what it is. I recommend David Foster Wallace. This is water, about life, and this is about money. So the style of this presentation will be basically a Bauernkalenderspruch. So it's like some funny quotes. Sometimes they make sense, sometimes they don't make sense. It should give you an overview about the history and also give an outlook about what that actually affects the so-called DeFi, blockchain, whatever, new digital currency stuff, and the global outlook. So, first of all, a disclaimer: I owe you a disclaimer for this is like a bullshit presentation. So a lot of things is true, some are not so much true, and I'm like sloppy sometimes, so it's not an academic presentation. You can trust in God, or you can trust in green money. That's The Wire, one of the greatest TV shows ever, and that's monopoly money, what we call funny money. You can watch the slides later. And when it comes to money, there's a big thing about magic. So we as a society, when you remember the picture from before, for money, we agreed on it that if you have funny money, colored money, that it represents something, it means something, and we can exchange it. And it's so cute that we have a lot of names for it, from money, from Moneten, from Juno Moneta, back to the Romans, to Marie, Gerstl-Kohle, Zaster, and so on. And money also has like a different function, even if it's about time, a symbol, freedom. Money, the creation itself, what we have right now, gave us a lot of freedom from whatever current and former systems of power we had. Some say it's the root of all evil. And in the slides, the one thing, it's also like there are some nice pictures that's more serious, and then there are like more funny pictures. And so money, this magic tool, is like every other tool. When we use a tool, it also forms us. Either it's being a computer, it changes us. So you think about it, if the only tool you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail to you. And then we have to ask ourselves, does the use of money over the centuries actually change our civilization? Do we lose our cooperative spirit? And that's the why question, and that's from anyone who used to be like a funny money blow-up in the early 2000s, two hilarious advertisings with the why thingy. Then we have fuck you money. That's like Elon Musk, basically, I don't give a shit about anything. Then we have smart money, who basically tries to get the money from the dump money, so it has no money. And then you have that fuck you again, because you don't care about anything, because you have no money. Then the other category we have is helicopter money, so you blow out money. You have old money, who is always like the big money, trying to be pristine, and then the new money. In theory of economics, you have like certain adjectives and things money should do. We skip that because it's not important. And since it's about calendar talking, we are now in February, and that's the best month for rich people because they only can complain 28 days that they're so poor. And that brings to the point, normally people who have a lot of money present themselves as having a lot of money because they're so good, but the majority in the research shows also they have a lot of luck, like really a lot of luck. And the next step is rationality. We have a financial system which mirrors the human nature, and therefore it's deeply irrational and unequal, and the market can stay irrational a lot longer than you can stay solvent. So what is solvent? Solvent is like liquidity. The picture next to it is actually one of the few materials that can be solid and liquid at the same time. That's a new thing. Otherwise you try to be liquid. And we had this year that the Silicon Valley Bank actually ran out of liquidity, which was the first bank run caused by Twitter or a digital thing. So people thought that it's bankrupt, and because it's bankrupt, everybody tried to get the money out of it, and it was digitally, so it was so fast that they actually ran out of money, and then they had a problem. Which brings us to the common knowledge. The common knowledge is a second order consensus. The consensus view, what is the consent? So in we have a fairy tale about it. It's like the Kaiser's neue Kleider. So if everybody agree that the Kaiser is naked, then he actually is naked. Until the point that everybody agrees on it, that the Kaiser is naked, you move along with certain things. That goes to the third and fourth derivative. And there's a theory behind it that's called the reflexivity theory from George Soros. And there we agree on it that rather on the perception of reality. So it's not the things, and it's rather what the perception is about it. And I learned in school, if we agree on it, that there's a fish on a bicycle running outside on Kreuzberg, then in money terms, to a certain degree, then there's actually really a fish on a bicycle running outside somewhere. Then money doesn't stink. Then we have the interesting part, so when somebody has money, somebody else maybe lent them money, so you have a debtor and a borrower, and normally I always bitch about like how bad that thing is that somebody is in debt, but that also means like somebody else has like gave that person the money. So when we talk about governments and so on, somebody gave them the money and they make money giving them the money normally. So that's the rule of thumb. Then the other one thing, there's not equal when it comes to enforcement. So that's Boris from The Wire, and he asked, did he have hands? Then it wasn't us. And you had in the past, when you owe somebody, the enforcement is normally stronger than the position is if you borrow. And there's also the rule, debtor is not debtor. There's a huge difference, although everybody's saying it's equal. Some debtors are different ones, that's like from animal farms. And back in history, we had a thing called like debt cancellation. So over times, the money and how you owed it to someone was getting like set to null. There were three options. The one was doing nothing. That's what like unhealthy. So in the short run, we were all dead. Keynes said in the long run we are all dead. The second option would be they get themselves and the banks out of debt. That means like you have a revolution. Or the option 3 was like they got everybody out of debt. That was used to be in the thing. Usury used to be a thing less popular in pop culture back in the times in Islam and Christianity. And then we have Gresham's law. Bad money drives out good money. So you had coinage, and from the coinage you had like people tried to get some silver or gold away, and then everybody was trading the weak coins because the good ones you saved yourself. Which brings us to fiat money. Fiat money is then like money, but not represented in like raw materials or like some goods, but like printed paper or some I owe you something on paper. So you trust on that, and then you have the of fiat news. So fiat news is what hard news used to be, and you create the thing that you're thinking about it, what it should be. And when you think about fiat news or fiat money, king number 1 in all the projections is Trump. He hilariously called up the Forbes 400 list back in the days as John Barron by himself. There's actually a video recording from it, claiming that how much money it is. Once he had so much money, he got on that list and made more deals about it. And that guy literally, like, his whole life is like one hilarious con ride till he got a president from the US, which you have to give him some kind of respect how he pulled it off. Then in Germany, we also like inflation, that the pictures from the 20s. South Park said, and it's gone, which means like then it's gone.
Well, that's fantastic. A really smart decision, young man. We can put that check in a money market mutual fund. Then we'll reinvest the earnings into foreign currency accounts with compounding interest, and it's gone.
And that goes on like that, so it's gone. And then the question is how it's gone. Well, there are two ways. It's like gradually and then it goes suddenly. And that's like the banknote. I think the biggest banknote is like 100 trillion. It's from Zimbabwe. And then back in the days, you also had like a Goldverbot. I'm not advocating Goldverbot or something. I'm just pointing it out. Back in the days, they also did policy work which actually affected something. Big thing was the Bretton Woods conference, which set the monetary system internationally till like roughly around 73, which some issues which are described there. It's more complicated, interesting to look at it. But what it brings up this question, what is the currency on a global level and what effects like for the countries itself? So you have like one country who can print it, the other country has to borrow it, and that's your friend is like how you enforce things. And money has like the quote from Kissinger, has no permanent friends or enemies, only interests. So every time when you think about policy, just have in your head Henry Kissinger, and you have to understand then why you should be careful. That went on till like the 70s, and something happened in the 70s that's like always I'm trying to explain to people if you don't live off of like interest, like if you don't live off making money from money, you work. When you get worked, you get paid. Something happened here, it broke down in the system, where that is the productivity of society, that's hourly compensation. And it says then money begets money. That's from Benjamin Franklin, that's the guy on the note who used to be president. And this is like what is the increase on the productivity, and that's how much you paid for it. So you have like somewhere in the system, through that changes in the money system, some people claim that there's a change in it, like what part of it went to capital and what part of it went to labor, which on the long run created all the inequality or enforced inequality and cost other things. You can see it here, that's like the share of labor compensation and current national prices in the US for it. So when we got there on the so-called financialization, which is trying to create some products, getting money out of it, the one thing always happened there is like, I be gone, you be gone. So you made contracts or deals with people, you know, by the time the contracts will happening or being paid out, both are like in new positions and don't care about it. So that means like no skin in the game, and that leaves also normal like a landscape of something unpleasant. Here it's one again, the same thing happened in the UK after financial crisis. That's like description of like how resources or money is shared. You can see it here in detail. And the whole thing is done by incentives. That's like one of the big things in the financial industry also when it comes down to regulations, like who has what incentives. And there's this really beautiful sentence like, it's difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on not understanding it. And that's from a guy called Sinclair. Same thing is from Warren Buffett's investment friend who said like his whole job is like thinking about incentives and he still doesn't get it. Greenspan used nice words to describe the situation. It was his famous quote from, you can read it here, about irrational exuberance. I didn't know until I was reading about it what irrational exuberance is. Basically, he was talking about bubbles. So you make it more complicated. The more complicated you make it, the less people can follow you to talk about it. And then there's the saying, this time is different. It's always the four most expensive words, because this time it's different. The end is just the same. Or you didn't lose, but you just ran out of time. And then we ended up there. You have a system then when you have to put in more money, we see on the left, and there's the nice quote from Jamie Dimon, who used to be a big CEO banker, as long as the music is playing, you're going to go up and dance. That's basically when this happened. That was like the financial crisis, 2007, 2008. What goes up must come down. And we had like this, like here, the run over was at that time. And that had, I lost the kid. That had certain implication. What happened then when you had like this big financial crisis? That was the formula at the top who basically led us there, which was like financial engineering, describing the situation that Joe Blow should pay back his mortgage within 30 years. That's how like a housing market works. You buy a house and within 30 years you pay it back. And that's like basically some probability quote. Nobody understood that, even those people who are using it. And at the end of the day, somebody figured out, well, it didn't work out so great, and somebody had to pay for it and also put more money in it to save the system, which ended up in a series called zero interest rate policies. That's a policy. So you basically can get money more or less for free. There's no interest rate anymore. It's called Q, quantitative easing, and that was really through 2008 till 2015. That's Silpsalp, cute birdie, and that's a brown kehlchen. It's important to remember that. And so you had two balance sheets from the Fed, from the US Federal Bank, or from the ECB, which you can see how they blow up over the years, like over here, financial crisis, you have it at over here, and where we are at the beginning now. So billion there, a billion here, and pretty soon you're talking about real money. And so what it leads there, you have to privatize the gains and socialize the losses. And by the end of the day, who paid up for that was more or less like the states who funded the system, and basically taxpayers funding it too, to a certain degree. The next fun part is like, after all that hilarious blowout of the great financial crisis is, who got jailed? We have one fucker on the left, who was actually the only one who got really jailed for it, for some reasons, minor thing, it's too big to jail. And then the guy on the right, he got only jailed because his Ponzi scheme blew up, while the other financial market blew up. But he was basically running a system which promised 18% annual return. So no, everybody else got out of it, and he was running the oldest trick, which is the confidence trick, only limited access. It's a high privilege to even being considered to invest in my fund. And I don't know if he's still in prison, but he got there. So that's two guys. At the same time, when that blew up, the Bitcoin paper came out. I'm not advocating for Bitcoin. I'm just saying it's an interesting point that while it blew up, we have then like an alternative discussion about actually what is money and how you deal with the power structures and the things according to it. Since everybody wants money, there are a lot of also like counterfeiters around the world. There are hilarious stories. I think my favorite one is Hans-Jürgen Kuhl, who used to be an artist, like really well done work in that area. And then also when you talk about things, Apple Daylight Rate on Xerox, how they built the Mac, you could say it like that. Then we have the curve, like how much money you need. Well, there's a fulfillment curve. At one point you have enough and you don't need more, supposedly, which leads us to 2021, where the so-called GameStop was. GameStop was basically, somebody said like, Deep fucking Valley was a Redditor, explaining that the stock, which is like a retail chain, is undervalued, A, and B, somebody has to pay the stock, so you have a short squeeze. A lot of people bought that, and then basically, it was madness, pure madness, because it was like investor activist short sellers against like blah blah blah, and it was like then this like internet army of investors against like high profile hedge funds who actually were short and had to send money in it. It was like a big great story. End of story. What I think is great about it, you had like this movement away from finalization to you only live once, completely gambling. So because of all the cheap money we put into somewhere, because of the fact that you know you can't get with a regular job any real house anymore on the long run, you just say, let's fuck it up. You go on something, believe a story, and that's always, financial markets are only just stories. You just believe something like that. And this like herd of uninformed investors believing it, that it can work out, while it actually for a few weeks it actually looked like it could work out, lost like the whole lifetime savings done by somebody who knew that it's completely bullshit. That's the other story. So you have first you blaming the original financial system that something goes wrong, and then you getting bended over by the same people who say that they will changing it. The other great story when it comes down to money was FTX. That started 2019. It blew up last summer, fall. And the hilarious part about that was it was running under the label effective altruism. So effective altruism was a philanthropy on steroids, basically saying finding the best way to do goods. What did they came up with? Well, they said like we make so much profit that we have so much money to solve all the problems in the world. So it sounded so good to be true that you, while it started, would have to think, how the fuck can they pull it off like that? There was like from Sequoia Capital, with a huge venture capital fund, a pitch deck they released, like what they think about them. And if you're reading it, you can still find in the Wayback Machine. You're like thinking it's like a joke press release. While altogether they blew up more like a couple of billions. That was Sam Bankman-Fried on some crypto exchange conference. I think it was on Bahamas. And that's to the left is Tony Blair, one of my favorite heroes. And then in the middle you have Bill Clinton, also another favorite hero. And they have a picture like that. You can be like grifters, just wanna be grifters. They were all like into buying this like beautiful story to get their money out of it. And why I'm talking about that, so that's like DeFi or whatever, they did like crypto thing. We are like on the verge of getting from the current system to something, whatever it will be, and it has to be something about digital. We can talk about it, what it is, and I'm not an expert on it. I'm just saying there are like certain parameters you always should keep in mind. What it's about: privacy, censorship, centralization, resilience, and culture when you move completely off. Because that has an effect. We had a censorship. If those you can remember, more than 10 years ago, you had like certain organizations who cut it off from the regular financial funding because they were not well received. That was WikiLeaks. So if you go all digital, it will have certain effects on certain things. And that's the explanation on, we actually, I think, have time, we can play it. That's The Wire, best series ever.
Flush to the queen.
They're playing poker. Omar comes in and explains the situation.
All right, everybody, let me see them hands, yo. Hands! Hey, yo, big man, back up. I don't know about cars, but I think these 4-5s be the full house. Hey, yo, banker, cash me out, yo. Boy, you want to hit on that body, you best hop too.
That's my money.
And now?
Man, money ain't got no owners. Only spenders. I tell you something else. I like that ring, too. Boy, you got me confused when a man repeats himself.
So, what happens here is like he walks in at an illegal gambling. That's basically something unregulated market, what could be like whatever, something genie.
Ain't over.
Well, that's how you carry the show.
And then the other thing is,
Because I can find
you see on the table chips. So once you have it like regulated, it's basically you have the chips on the table. You don't have the real money anymore, which he goes for. If you understand that scene and think DeFi under that perspective, what it means, it's one of the, I think, more subtle explanation how that things goes. And in the end, Marlo, the young drug dealer, lost all his ring. So the series itself is like mind-blowing in my point of view. I watched it a couple of times. It's the best explanation for that. So now we are like in a post-2020, February 24th, 22 world. When it comes to money, there's two things. You have a new payment system rivaling SWIFT. So SWIFT is like the global payment system. We want to get Russia out of that payment system. Because we want to get Russia out of the payment system, they're trying to create something alternatively. The thing is also to remember, that's like how the change is like up and down from BRICS to G7. So BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, South Africa, and China. And there you have a huge power definition, new one, how you deal with it, while some support actually Putin because they care only about like how that grows line. And then the other thing what happened, and the guy before gave the presentation, talked about it, we now saying it's a Zeitenwende. We basically pulled up 100 billion Sondervermögen for military stuff. We never came up with peanuts for climate change. And it's one of the things we probably should think. It's funny money at the end of the day, maybe it has some benefit. So when it comes as a society, we also have the problem that history never repeats itself, but it does often rhyme. So what we could do is like thinking about regulations, taxations for profits, CO2 inheritance, which means like taxing when you just get something because you're born in a wealthy family, and then it's beneficial ownership. Beneficial ownership basically should track or help finding out who has what money. The things always normally gets you, it's like pride, greed, and convenience. That's also a money rule, always works perfectly. And what you can do on an individual level is like you either try to do co-ops, try to get out of certain money systems, or be like in Genossenschaften. And there's this nice metaphor of like being a pirate. That's my interpretation, but rebuilding Otto Neurath's ship on the sea. Because that's basically would have to do. We are like on the sea, on a ship, which is not functional, it probably should be, and we have to rebuild it in some way. And that's the last slide of it. So this is the whole thing. It's 2 + 2 either equals fish, or 2 + 2 either equals 5. And then we have a fish who is flying. So the bottom line of this is like The Big Short, The Wire, Marginal Called, Inside Job, and 5,000 Years of Debt. I only can recommend to get an hilarious entertainment what money system could be, or should be, or was, or giving you new ideas about how to think about the things, what money is about. Because I think certain, especially from history, certain things are completely, well, there are different views on it, like how money was created, why it's created, and what function money had. So I'm on my last slide. Under this address, you can find the slides, you can rewatch it, you can download it. The images and videos normally are like linked into it, so you can actually use then the articles or find further information, since I know this was like more or less like a little bit dense. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and thanks so much for listening.